welcome to the LivByte Podcast, your go-to source for everything custom software development and tech industry related. I'm your host, Danielle Doloff, and today we have a very special episode focusing on a crucial and rapidly evolving industry, fertility. Joining me is our expert guest, Tim Doloff, who has been deeply involved in leading the development of cutting-edge solutions for this sector. Specifically, we'll be talking about the 3 custom solutions Liventus has built for a major player in the reproductive health industry, a fertility clinic in detail. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. And one of the reasons that I'm excited to be on this particular episode is that I think of all the industries we do work for, we work in a lot of different verticals and create a lot of custom solutions. This one feels, I think, the most special in that it's allowing us to help these companies, these fertility companies, assist people in building their families. And that's something that I feel like is actually a real positive for the world. We work in a lot of industries that are still good for the businesses, helping them with their efficiencies and productivity. But in this case, it's good to feel like we're really doing something that's assisting families and assisting individuals.
Yeah, that's kind of more of a feel good, and the stories are a bit more tugging at your heartstrings, right? So, well, let's dive into it. The first thing I want to talk about is this industry, fertility treatment and reproductive health in general, has seen massive growth in recent years. But with that growth comes a lot of challenges, both for providers and patients. Often technology can kind of help with that. Can you just give us an overview based on your experience of some of the biggest pain points in the industry that technology can really help address?
Sure. We've actually had an opportunity now to work with several fairly large companies in the fertility industry, and we hear some of the same problems over and over again, or the same issues. And mostly, it's just that there isn't great tools built to just help them run their business. It's a unique business. The clients that they're working with and the things that they're that they're moving through their systems is unique. It's obviously, for one, there's a lot of privacy concerns with the types of data we're dealing with. So we have to be very cautious from a privacy and security perspective. But also, again, just that the tools that exist out there in the marketplace, if there are industry specific tools, they're generally pretty outdated. They haven't kept up with changing regulations, with changing technology, and they're really causing roadblocks for our clients. We'll be talking a little bit about the egg donor process today and some of the tools that we've worked with in that space. But that's a particularly challenging one because the way that we connect, intended parents with the right donors so that they can, help raise a family that's a good fit for them. First, you've got to identify the donors and you've really got to get them through that process. And that's been a challenge, especially with the tool sets that are out there, the off-the-shelf software that has worked in this industry, and some of the tools that companies are trying to rely on, things like Salesforce, that maybe works fine in a typical, in some places, but here it's a fairly complex onboarding process. And so we really need to help these donors through the process, make it as easy as possible. And so we've had an opportunity to do that with some custom solutions that you really, that our clients are struggling with any other tools they're trying to use. So building something that really meets their needs and really helps their donors and their clients has been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think we often find ourselves doing work in industries that are a bit more niche because custom software hasn't been fully fleshed out there yet. It hasn't been worth it. Maybe it's kind of a more subtle industry, not well known. And so that's really one of those places where custom development kind of can fill those cracks, the gaps, I guess, where off the shelf, just isn't providing the right solutions. Right. Getting right into that specifically, why don't we talk about one of the first solutions we built was a donor management system. So if you could explain what that is, just in general terms, and then how the system works and why it was needed.
Yeah, so the donor onboarding donors and identifying and locating and onboarding donors that are interested in helping intended parents with donating eggs is a complicated and sometimes long process. First, they have to identify potential targets for this, and so they're really trying to drive the right demographics, the right types of donors as far as the age of the women that are going to be donating, finding where they're at, how to get them to start the process. So that's the first step. But once you've kind of directed people, once you've found your potential donor and said, hey, come on and apply, let's see if you're the right fit for this program, and you can help out these parents, it's quite a lengthy process. And so you have a lot of donors coming in, and a lot won't qualify. They don't meet certain health criteria, or other criteria, potentially medical history, that would make them a good, a valuable donor and produce healthy eggs. And so the first thing we did in this process is started with kind of a pre-screening tool, very simple, gets a lot of people in there and taking that first step. Once they've kind of committed to that first step, we can automate a lot of the screening on that. We can eliminate a human having to look at each of those applications based on certain qualifications that we ask in this initial pre-screening. And that just really takes down the workload for the fertility clinics that are reviewing these donors. And so we start with that process. But the next thing we do is that if they are qualified, we built some tools and a flow that really helps the donors get excited about moving forward and helps them stay on track. Because once we've gone through that pre-screening, now there's a whole lot of information we have to collect from a donor. Things like family medical history. In some cases, they'll end up going through genetic screening. They'll go through physicals. Information that will help an intended parent emotionally connect with the donor, things like their interests, their religious background, their activities. And so all this information has to be collected before a donor can before they can become a part of the process where they're actually producing eggs and presented to intended parents. So we built a fairly interesting tool for this. It kind of presents the application process to the donor in stages. Again, tries to make it as easy as possible with things like, instead of just giving them 100 questions on a page, it might be 4 questions. And depending on how they answer, we'll show them the questions that they actually need. So family medical history is an interesting example, very important to understand before you identify a donor as a viable candidate. And so, for example, we'll ask them just to list their family members. And then we only ask the relevant questions to those family members, versus some of the off-the-shelf tools kind of just leave this huge open form with asking tons of questions that they may not even need to answer. So by doing this, by streamlining the application process, we found that there was a lot more likelihood that donors were going to complete the process versus what we were seeing in previously used tools. The second part that we do is we kind of help them stay motivated. Again, this is a fairly long application, and there's some communication steps with the donor management team through the process. But as far as the actual application form, we give it to them in sections. We remind them to come back. So if they fill out 2 pages and then they get distracted to maybe do something, we have a nice communication workflow built in that if the donor hasn't completed the application, it sends them notifications. It reminds them to come back and complete filling in the form. And then when they come back, they can start where they left off. It shows them the percentages that they've processed. We kind of gamify it a little bit, give them a great job notification when they get to a certain point in the process. But basically, it's keeping people in the workflow. It's reminding them that there's still some stuff to do here, but you're almost done. Let's get it through. So that's the application process itself. Now, on the back end of that, of course, all these applications are coming in. Some of them have been pre-screened, although the production team can still look at those. But then what do they do with all the applications after they've been pre-screened and the person fills in the rest of the information? That can't be automated. There's a lot of decisions that are made by very knowledgeable people in the fertility industry to decide whether this is a good fit. And so we've basically given the production team a portal to review these applications, see what parts of the process they're in, communication tools to reach out right through this portal to ask questions and mark that they're waiting for responses from them. There's one of the things that the donors are doing during this process is they will be uploading photos of themselves. These are important for potential intended parents to see what the donor would look like, to see what their egg, some of the traits that might come through there. And so the donors are able to upload photos, but the production team oftentimes needs to modify those photos. Maybe they need to crop out some other people that are in it. Maybe they need to, center it so that it displays a little bit better on their profiles. Well, we built in a photo management and photo editing tool right through the portal. So as the production team is reviewing these photos that have been uploaded, they can crop them, they can reorient them, they can, make little changes without having to go through a lengthy process of opening them in another application, doing editing, stuff like that. So really try to make the whole solution very useful for both the donors themselves, but also the production team that's managing the donors and helping them get through the process.
Yeah, that sounds like a complex and robust solution, and I imagine it's had a significant impact on their business, essentially, as if you make these applications easier, more intuitive, like you talked about, not just this open form or it's not tailored to what the applicant needs to fill out, they more likely to complete it. The notification, oh, you're this percent complete, some of that encouragement is really critical. Moving on, another big aspect of their operations, once they've got these egg donors and they've collected those eggs. Now, the point of it is there's intended parents for a variety of reasons who need to utilize those eggs. Another piece of what they needed to build was assisting intended parents in looking for those, trying to make those selections. Can you talk about this solution and how it helps their clients?
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about this in the context of a few companies we've built a similar solution for, because they all had some slightly different desires for what the application did, but they all do generally the same thing, which is it gives an intended parent a place to go and look for donors that are available, understand what eggs are available, what those donors' history is, what their background is, what their demographics and their interests are, and make some decisions about what eggs they want to include in their process in becoming a parent. So in every case, what we've done is built a very simple, searchable platform so that if somebody is interested in looking to see what eggs are available today, they can filter by some certain criteria. They can filter by their, by their hair color or eye color, for example. If they want it to be somebody that's going to look like them, they can filter by their religion. They can filter on several other criteria as well. Once they filter these down, then they can see profiles of these donors. They can see what the adult donor looks like. They can see, in some cases, what the childhood, what the child photos of that donor looks like. So they might know what their children might look like. They can see the family medical history and the genetic background of these donors, and lots of other information as well, things like their favorite interests and stuff like that. And then, of course, they can reserve the donors. And we've worked with a couple different companies that do it in different ways. Some of them allow the donor to be reserved, and then that initiates a communication with someone from the sales team at the fertility clinic. In some cases, they can even check out. They can purchase those donor eggs, check out, and that holds them and starts the process of getting those eggs shipped to their clinic. So kind of allowing that to really make the process as easy as possible. In some cases, we allow them to favorite donors so that they can go back and look at a list later, maybe with their partner, or if they're not ready to make a decision today. But of course, the risk there is that the donor's inventory is gone by the time they come back and make a decision on it. However, we've got some tools in place even that allow donors to be, or intended parents to be notified when a donor has more eggs available, because this does happen. Most donors will provide eggs multiple times. So if they really got their heart set on a donor but didn't make a decision in time, they'll get notified when there's more eggs available from that donor. So lots of tools to really facilitate the intended parent from identifying a donor that they feel they're going to be, that's going to be the right fit for them, and help them build a family that matches their goals and their expectations. One of the other interesting tools we've been working with lately is we're really trying to stay ahead of the curve with the tools and the technology that it's available from an AI perspective. And one of the really neat solutions we worked with on one client was basically using a AI image match that will kind of identify donors that have available inventory that look similar to the intended parent. So the intended parent can upload a photo of themselves, and then it will show them some examples of donors that look similar in certain aspects. So it may help them just kind of find somebody that's going to look like them a little bit more. So some really, I think, very unique and interesting challenges to solve with this information. There's a lot more I could go into detail, but I think it gives you a good picture of what this tool does and why it had to be customized. There are some off the shelf solutions out there, but they just really can't be flexible to meet the clinic's particular business needs in a way that a custom solution can.
Yeah, I think to that point, sometimes off the shelf may require a business or clinic to contort themselves to fit into it. And I think sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that makes sense. But if you kind of go back to the beginning of when you talked about this industry and how, it's, there's big decisions going on. These are lifelong decisions these people are making, right? These are critical to their lives. These are not just business decisions. And so aiding those clients in that process and making it easy as possible, because they're probably emotional decisions. There's a lot to think about. And to make that process as easy and frictionless as possible is really critical. And not probably a place you want to really contort your process to fit some off the shelf solution. I think the last piece of this I want to talk about is the third leg of this stool, so to speak, is we built a mobile app designed to support the egg donor process, specifically once an egg donor is approved. That's just the beginning of the steps. You think about all those pieces now the egg donor has to do to have eggs that they can donate. So can you explain how the mobile app works?
Sure. So this was the most recent addition we added to this, the full solution for one of our egg donor clients. So basically what was happening was that, once donors get accepted into the program, they've been vetted through the application process, and it looks like they're going to be a good fit to a donor. There's still a number of steps the donor has to go through. They have to get to some local clinics for physicals. They have to be available to actually provide their eggs within their particular cycle. And so there are a lot of things that the clinic coordinators were doing to try to organize with the donors and to keep them moving through the process and finish the final steps before they could actually donate eggs. And a lot of that was happening either with phone calls to the donors. Maybe it was happening with emails to the donors. Hey, just a reminder, you got your appointment today. And a lot of manual work was going into that. So we helped our client build a mobile app. Now, this is actually a unique solution because this is what we would call a progressive web app. This is called a progressive web app. The idea being that they wanted donors to be able to use this toolkit both on a mobile device, your standard devices like Android and iOS, but also there may be some donors that are still choosing to work with this tool on a desktop computer or laptop computer. And so progressive web app allows us to make what's essentially a web application that can still be installed on a phone like an app. And when you use it on your phone, it presents like an app. It doesn't share a browser or anything like that. So it really feels like a native mobile app on a device, but is also, kind of basically web friendly on any device. And that allows the long-term maintenance cost of the application to be really an easier solution to add features to and to maintain and things like that. But what this solution does is that essentially once a donor is accepted into the program, they're directed to install this app and log in. It has some training materials for using the app, but also training materials about the process for them. So if at any point in the process, okay, you want to understand a little bit more about your first clinic visit, go there. There's a video that explains it to you. So they've got some materials in there, but more importantly, they have a few tools. They have a task list that kind of shows them what their current needs are. Like first, you have to, one of the things might be make an appointment for this particular visit. Once they've done that, and it gives them a list of clinics nearby where they could make the appointment, then they can mark it off. So it's kind of giving them a checklist of things that they're required to do at this point. Maybe they haven't uploaded their personal history information or done an audio interview that will be used on their profile. Those are things that will be added to the list at the appropriate phases. And so not only are they then able to keep track of the stuff that they need to do to actually become a donor, all that information is shared with the coordinator so they can kind of keep track of how the donor is doing, what things they have or haven't done yet. Aside from that, there is a calendar built into the system that has a couple great tools in it. One is that as they make appointments, it gets automatically added to their calendar. And now they have a simple calendar they can look at for all the events that they need to know. Okay, what appointments do I have coming up this week? That's clearly listed out there. It also has a period tracker in here. As I mentioned, one of the important things about the egg donor process is that they can donate at certain phases of their cycle. It helps the donor coordinators manage when they're, if they're healthy and ready to provide eggs. And so they can track their period in this tool as well. And that is shared with their donor coordinator. These are all things that would have had to been done manually or done on paper in the past. It's now done through this app. And then the last part that's really, a great toolkit for the coordinators is it's got a messaging app within it. So not only can the donors be reminded of specific tasks, but they can also be really communicated with related to those tasks or just on separate topics. The donor coordinator can send them what looks like a text message thread. So they can basically send them a message. Hey, did you get this done today? Or what's your plan for getting this follow-up? And it makes the communication flow really easy without donor coordinators having to check an email inbox and send individual emails. Some of the messages that are sent through there will be just automated based on the where they are in the process. So it really, kind of increases the likelihood that these tasks are being done, they're being followed up on, and that the donor's seeing it. So I think some really exciting tools. We're in the process of adding additional features that will help them coordinate more with some of their coordinate more with some of their genetic screenings and some of the tools that are actually, after the first egg donor process and additional cycles. So again, these are tools that are just really replacing a lot of manual work, a lot of manual follow-up, and in many cases that we're causing donors to drop out of the process, which is the key problem that we're really trying to solve here from the beginning, and has shown great results. Make the application process easier for them, make sure that they are following through and completing the application, and make sure that once they're in the program that they are taking the steps that they need to. And we've seen really great results from this.
Yeah, again, taking a really critical step in this and the fertility clinics, process and increasing the success and reducing, I'm sure, a ton of time on their team of manual follow-ups that, trying to remember to ping people. Did I contact this egg donor? Did I not? Having to keep track of that someplace. So automating all of that, reducing that manual labor, that stuff nobody likes to do, honestly, but is really critical to your point that the egg donors, kind of reach the complete the full process. Otherwise, none of it really matters, right? They have to get through the entire piece of it. So pretty cool solutions, really having a big impact on the fertility clinics we've worked with and their process and increasing success rates. When you look ahead, based on your experience so far, where do you see the future of technology in the fertility industry?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to improve the processes that they've got. I mean, egg banks is just one area in the fertility industry, but again, what we're talking about is a lot of medical information going back and forth, a lot of appointments being set, tools being set. So there's a lot of opportunity for automating that stuff. I think AI, again, some of the AI tools that I talked about already, there's a lot of opportunity to expand that using AI further in some of the screening process and some of the onboarding tools. Those are going to be opportunities to really advance as well.
Yeah. Of course, I think, the fertility, just like any industry, is, constantly evolving and changing, subject to regulation, subject to all of those items, like medical advances, all those things are, I'm sure, impacting the industry constantly. And using technology to stay in the forefront, and kind of be the leader is really critical. Well, this has been an amazing, insightful discussion, Tim. These solutions we've built for fertility industry has been pretty amazing. Thanks for sharing your expertise and your walking us through some of the solutions we've built. To our listeners, if you're in the fertility industry and looking for innovative technology solutions, Liventus is here to help. We've been in this industry 7-8 years now and learned a lot. Visit us at liventus.com to learn more. Thanks for tuning into the LivByte Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having me.